Hello and welcome back to another episode on Let's Talk Football Careers with myself, Barry, and today's guest, Paul Trevillion. How you doing, Paul?
Well, I'm top of the world, and
Amazing.
I'm very, very happy. And I'll tell you why I'm happy. I was born in Love Lane, Tottenham, the year 1934,
Sorry.
and I was 3 minutes walk from St Francis de Sales School, where I went to, and
Yeah.
this is more important, 4 minutes away, a 4 minute walk, we could hear the goals when they went in, we could hear the roars, is Tottenham Hotspur Football Ground.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't do any schooling. When I went there, my dad said to me, he was a bus conductor, and he said, I've got a couple of colleagues, a couple of friends, and I can move my shift and I can take you to the replay, Tottenham v Everton.
And that was your first game.
I was 3 years old. 3 years old. And I said, I'm going to go because I hear all my brothers talking about it. And my dad was always talking football. Tottenham. So I went. And this is the program I've kept ever
still
since.
got it.
That's
Amazing.
the program. And
Oh.
inside, the most important thing of all, inside, there's the team.
Wow.
And Dixie Dean played, and it was Tommy Lawton's first game. But what surprised me was when Dixie Dean came out, everybody cheered. Everybody, louder than when the Spurs players come out. It was Dixie. They wanted to see him score. He scored two. They were 3-1 up they were. And then Tottenham went on and beat them 4-3. So that was my memory. And when I come home, my mum had knitted me a blue and white scarf. And I said, Everton playing blue and white. Will you put Dixie Dean on it? She said, well, he doesn't play for Tottenham. I said, it doesn't matter. I want Dixie Dean on my scarf. And Dixie Dean was put on my scarf. So I, for that moment on, stopped drawing my dog, my cat, the milkman's horse, the little Cockney sparrows, everything. I didn't draw anymore. It was football.
That was where it started.
And no schooling. I used to travel over to the Tottenham Hotspur training ground. So when the war came and when it ended, that's where I went. And I saw the greatest team ever. And I still say they would have beaten the double team. They would have beaten any team. That was, still remember it, Ditchburn, Ramsey, Willis, Nicholson, Clark, Burgess, Walters, Bennett, Dukeman, Bailey, Medley. What a team!
Unreal.
I didn't win the second. They went on and won the first. So that was the first double I saw. I couldn't believe it. So I then started to draw. And I failed every exam. I actually failed the 11 plus. But my teacher took that off the wall. He said, take that home to your dad. Because that's on our wall. That's Dixie Dean. And that's my drawing of Dixie Dean. So that was on the wall. But because of all those drawings I did all those years ago, I learned from the best two teachers I've ever had. That was Bill Nicholson and the man Alf Ramsey, who won the World Cup. Now, Alf phoned Ralph Elfin, the editor of Lillywhite, and said to him, I want Trevillion to bring that drawing what appeared in the Lillywhite magazine. Oh, God. Told all my mates at school, he's got to sign it. I've got to take the drawing. I took it to him and he held it up. And this was the best lesson I ever learned. And he said, what am I doing? I said, you're heading the ball, Alf. The first person to tear one of my drawings up, he said, what do I do best? I said, you pass the ball. That's what you do best. He said, that's right. Not heading the ball. If you want to draw someone heading the ball, do that Lofthouse. Do Jackie Lofthouse. If you want to do someone who can really tackle, then do Bill Nicholson. He's good. He's good at tackling. So I learned then that I had to do what they did best. That's why when I did a book on Pele, I never met the man, but I did the book. And I did all these drawings of Pele in it. And then I found myself at a signing session sitting next to Pele.
Unbelievable.
In his book.
You still think to yourself, yeah?
And he looked at me and he said, I don't remember doing that book. I said, you didn't do it. He said, what do you mean I didn't? I said, you didn't do it, Pele. He said, well, let me have a look at it. And he flicked through it and he said, these are brilliant. This is excellent. What didn't I do? I said, you didn't do it. I didn't need you. I've watched you play. I've seen you play. And I had the best teacher in Alf Ramsey. And I did all your best. He said, from now on, I want you to help me. Whenever I want something, which is a drawing of me, it'd be you. And I absolutely, we finished up. The last thing I did was Snickers. And Snickers was right down the list. It went to number one, Snickers. So that's when I worked with him. But the big thing was I couldn't get into Fleet Street. I thought, I've got to get into Fleet Street. I must go for the Express, the Mail, the Mirror. But I couldn't get in. But I did a lot of syndication, a lot of work, which was appeared in other papers. And suddenly I got a call from the Evening Citizen. Will you come to Scotland and do some drawings for us? I said, yes, I'm there. So I went to Scotland and I stayed in Scotland and I'm working for the Evening Citizen, and suddenly Tottenham, and what a team they had then. They had done the double.
Was this in 1960?
Champions League Cup. Yeah. So this is the big thing. Why I relate to Tottenham all the time. They were the ones that steered my career. And I'll tell you why. They said, we want you to draw the front page with the Rangers players. I said, but you've done that so many times. They said, well, we're not with drawings. I said, yeah, but look, it won't be any different. I mean, they look like the same photographs. He said, so what are you saying? I said, Dave Mackay, who does he play for? He said, Scotland. Bill Brown, who does he play for? Scotland. John White, who does he play for? Scotland. So let's put them on the front. And this was the Evening Citizen.
That was fantastic.
Look at that. That's the Evening Citizen. And suddenly I realised that they had gone ahead with what I call the best team they ever had. That was, still remember it, Brown, Baker, Henry, Blount's-Flower, Norman, Mackay, all internationals. And then Jones, White, Smith, Allen, not Jimmy Greaves, Allen, Dyson. That was the team. The team. And that's the one I did on the front. So everybody went absolutely crazy to get the paper. But the match was fogged off. It was fogged off. So they sent a letter, this is true, to the editor of the Daily Express and said, although the match was fogged off, we sold as many copies as when the game is actually played. We sold 20,000 copies. Man. I can't believe that. 20,000 copies. And the next minute, come, we want you here. So I said, where? I said, we want you to work for the Daily Express. So now I'm working for the Daily Express. I want you to do the life story of Bobby Moore, life story of Bobby Charlton, life story. And I'm drawing, and suddenly I get a phone call. Paul, what's that? Paul, we're in trouble. It's Roy the Rovers. Now, he's not top of the list anymore. We know that. Billy Boots is top of the list. Billy Boots. But we want Roy the Rovers. can you do it's 16, probably 20 weeks? I said, I'm working for the Express. I said, Paul, we helped you when you was at school. When you was at school, we published your work. It wasn't the best then. It is now. So we wanted to do Roy the Rovers. So I drew Roy the Rovers. Took it in. They said, it's a comic. We can't use that. What are you doing? Look, we can't use this work. We can't use it. Take it back. I said, no, we can't use it, Paul. It's a comic, and that is real. That's real. I said, all right. So I left. But 3 days later, they said, we're still in trouble. We'll have to accept it. Go ahead, but only for one story. One story. So I did it. And by the end of those 20, it was 20 weeks. At the end of those 20 weeks, they were saying, thinks he's Roy the Rovers. That was a Roy the Rovers goal. And suddenly, they said, Paul, you've got to carry on. You've got to carry on. So I did. And I carried on for 2 years. So
you loved it, didn't you?
Roy the Rovers. But in the Lily White magazine, this is what I'm telling you, how my life is directed by Tottenham. I did the Lily White magazine a quiz. And I said, I've got a little question. Who is the only manager who is also an official referee? So I thought, no one will get that. And no one did. And it was Bill Nicholson. And I thought, hey, I put some more in. So I put a couple in this time. And then Bill Nicholson come over. He said, see this book? I said, yes. That's the FA book for referees. Read it. Read it. And then I decided on You Are the Ref.
That's how it came about.
You Are the Ref. There's Messi. What a player he was. Woof. Now, I did You Are the Ref. And I did that. And before I knew it, this is true, I got a phone call from Empire Publishing. They said, Paul, you know all those drawings you've done for the Lily White magazine, starting right through then, and you've gone right up to the greatest player, the greatest goal scorer I've ever seen. And I mean this, he definitely was the greatest goal scorer. He's got a hat-trick this weekend. Harry Kane.
Oh, Harry Kane, there we are.
Harry Kane. I don't care about the man who plays for Manchester City. Harry Kane was the man. And he still is the man. Yep. He's the greatest striker I've ever seen in my life.
And that's accolade that in itself.
I did this book for Empire Publishing. Right. And that's all my work dating back to when.
Can you lift it up a wee bit, please?
Players. Look at them all. Look.
I can't see. Can you lift it up?
Drawings. It's all my drawings. It's Alan Murray. Look, there's the double team. That's the one. Wembley bound. Bum, 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 bum. 1961. So they're all there. Everything's in the book. So that's unbelievable. It was so successful that they asked, can you now do, you've got all the drawings you've been doing for everyone, the history of Chelsea. And that goes right back. Look at them all, look.
Go lift it up a wee bit, Paul.
Look, I can't believe it's there. Bum, 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 bum. So I did that. But now, I'm at the Midlands Hotel on, I think it's the 17th of October. I'm sure on that. And at the Midlands Hotel, they got the legends coming in.
Yeah.
And they're going to sign this book.
Brilliant.
People can buy this book. Look at this. Now, that's the Midlands Hotel. Now, this is a book which I'm so proud of because my hero, if I could have played football, it wouldn't have been Cantona. I wasn't as good as Cantona. The man who was unbelievable, and he's done the foreword for the book, Brian Robson.
That's
my hero. If I'd have played football, if I'd have got a bum, that would have been the man, Brian Robson. He's done the forward for the book, and he says such wonderful things about my artwork. So that's Brian Robson. So they're all there, and I'm there going on to Old Trafford. Imagine that. I'm going to Old Trafford, and this is big. This is really big, because people say, you're 91. Have you stopped drawing? No, I still draw. That's the same. And this book, I'm going to the Munich Memorial Fund. It's at Old Trafford. I'm going there, and they've asked me, can you do a drawing of Duncan Edwards? Now, I'll get it for you. This is a drawing I've just done of Duncan Edwards.
How long did it take? How long did you drawings take?
Look, this is going to be auctioned, and that is Duncan Edwards.
How long does that kind of thing take?
I've just done it. It's the Duncan Edwards. I've just done it.
But how long does it take to do it?
No, look, that took me a week. The reason it takes a week, I've got to get it right. I've got to get it to look like him. I've got to get it so good I can talk to him. I held a conversation with Duncan. Imagine that. Because I remember I did a drawing in Sport Express of Duncan Edwards. And I went and watched him play at Old Trafford. Tottenham were playing. And this is true. This was the Busby Babes. This was the greatest team they ever produced. And I'm there. And Tottenham are 4 up at half time. Can you believe that? Bobby Smith gets a hat trick. 4 up at half time. And then in the second half, bang, 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 they got 3 goals. They're now coming for the 4th. It's Duncan Edwards. And I've never seen a player like him. I couldn't believe him. And he's coming forward, boom, 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 boom. And Danny Blanchard, he went past him as though he wasn't there. And Danny dived back and put his hand on the ball. And I thought, that's a free kick. He's done it. He stopped the man in his tracks. And Duncan Edwards actually picked Danny up and ruffled his hair. And I said, I've got to get his autograph. So and it ended. I waited outside. And when Duncan come out, I said, Duncan, can I have your autograph? And he said, yes. Who am I signing it to? I said, just put Trevillion. He said, you're the one who works for Sport Express and did that drawing of me. I said, yes. He said, it's not good drawing. I apologise for that drawing. He said, don't worry. It's like us today. We all have our bad days. You had a bad day then. So he was right. So I made it up now. I've done that drawing of Duncan Edwards. So that is why my life has so many different reasons. I mean, I'm at the Express, and the next thing I'm doing the Gary Player golf strip, which was the largest syndicated strip in the world. No paper, you get into every paper. So I'm doing the Gary Player golf strip. So I'm meeting all the top golfers, and then I'm working with Joe Bugner and Henry Cooper, and then I'll go to America. I'm working with Oscar De La Hoya. So it's all these different people. I work with the Hitman.
Yeah,
I work with the Hitman. Yeah, I've got the drawing somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I promise you now, this drawing I kept of Dixie Dean because I was only 11, and my dad said to me when I failed the exam, "Don't worry, Paul. Don't worry, because as long as you can hold a pencil, you'll always have a living. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about not passing." So I took it the second year. I failed again. So then I thought, this should Tottenham Technical College next. I'll definitely get ready for that. And I practiced and studied. Failed again. So my dad said, look, you've got one more chance. Look how old you are now. Just one more chance and you'll have to leave school and go to work. He said, instead of answering the questions, because I said, I can't read them. He said, I know that. So what you've got to do is to make sure that if it's the one on history, if it's one on English, if it's one, draw, if it's English, draw Charles Dickens. I said, yeah, I can do that. He said, and if it's history, do Winston Churchill. You can draw Winston Churchill. I said, yeah, I can draw it. So I did all these drawings and just turned it over. There was a white page at the back and did the drawings, and handed it in. I got a call. It was Tottenham Technical College. We're going to come up for an interview. I went up there for the interview and I said, yes, they said, look, no one's ever answered questions like you have. These drawings are magnificent. You could win us a gold medal. I said, yeah, I could. But that's in drawing. I said, but why didn't you answer the questions? I said, because I can't read all right. I've never learned. All I do is draw. They said, we'll teach you to read and write. They never did. But I did get the gold medal. I went to Mansion House and there was the Duke of Edinburgh. Yep. He gave the speech and I watched the speech and I opened the programme and I did a drawing of him. I'm drawing away. And then when it's finished, I tried to leave and someone said, we want that programme. You're not allowed to make notes. I said, I didn't make notes. I can't read all right. I can't do joint up writing. I didn't do anything. They said, let's have a look. I opened it up. We're going to send this to Buckingham Palace. It's magnificent. I said, oh, great. Can I have another programme? Yeah. So they got me another programme and I left. And my mum said, you're in trouble again. I said, yeah, I was in trouble. They took my programme away because I did a drawing. They said they're going to send it to Buckingham Palace. But in the Lily White magazine and in a couple of papers, Sporting Record and all that, the Duke of Edinburgh accepts a sketch by Paul Trevillion and says it's an excellent piece of work. I said, well, I've got a letter from Buckingham Palace. But when I was there at Mansion House, I'm leaving because they've held me up. And also, who was leaving? Duke of Edinburgh. So I went up to him, I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the speech. I didn't listen to a word, I was drawing. He said, did you? Now, what do you do other than, I said, I draw for the papers. He said, you do? I said, yeah, Sporting Record, Weekly Sporting Review, not for the Nationals yet, but I'm drawing. He said, what do you know about cricket? Because he was a great cricketer. He said, what do you know about cricket? I said, he said, it's the Coronation Ashes next year. I said, that's right, 1953. He said, right, what do you know about the England team? I said, you've got Hutton, you've got Compton, you've got Evans, you've got It's just enough. What do you know about the Australian team? You've got Lindwall, Miller, Hassett. He said, that's enough. Draw them. Look, I don't do cricket. He said, well, you're now starting cricket. Draw them, all of them. He said, I know it's tough, but it's like a hurdle. You've got to jump over it. You've got to jump over the hurdle. I said, right, I'll jump over the hurdle. So I left and I thought, but it got into Sporting Record about the Duke of Edinburgh sending the letter. So they called me up. But I went to the Telegraph first and they said, we want you to do political drawings. I said, I don't do political drawings, I just do sport. He said, no, the Duke of Edinburgh, and you can do some great drawings at Churchill and a great drawing. I said, no, I don't do it. I'm a sport. So I didn't get the job. And I went to the Express, I went to the Mail, I went to them all. And they all offered me the job, but it had to be political. I didn't want that. So I got a call from Sporting Record. It was Clifford Webb. And I went to see Clifford Webb and he said, what would you like to draw for us? I said, it's the Coronation Ashes next year. He said, yes. I said, can I draw all the cricketers who play for England, including Truman? And they said, Wardle. They said, yeah, all right, we know the names. And what about the Australians? And I want to draw the Australians. So I did the lot. I did them all in Sporting Record. I did every one. And I got a letter from Duke of Edinburgh congratulating me. And now kept in touch with the Duke of Edinburgh right to the end. So I find that because of what my dad told me to do the drawings on the back of the pages, because you can't read or write. I've never really learned to read or write.
No.
I've never read a history book. I've never read a geography book. All I do is watch sport. Sport
That's
is the
brilliant.
biggest thing. Yeah, that's all I watch. That's all I watch. All I watch. Like sport, sport, sport. And my hero at the moment is Van Basten. But my biggest hero, who played for Tottenham, was when I was DJ Bear. When I came back from America, because I was over there working with Umbro for Pele. For Pele, he got me the job. And I'm working over there for Umbro. And when I come back, there's the railings. I thought, I never saw railings. What are they up there for? So I thought, this has got to come down. Got to come down. So I wrote to Maggie Thatcher. And Maggie Thatcher called me in. And Colin Moynihan was the Minister of Sports. I remember all these names.
I know, yes.
91, and I don't, and I remember things. It's yesterday. And
Crazy, honestly.
and said, what do you want to do? I said, I think that you get all the away supporters at one end, and during the game, and before it even, they're fixing fights. They're doing that all the time, and when they come out, boom, boom, boom. That's the trouble. So I said, what I want to do is diffuse that, and I get DJ Bear, and I call him the Panda of Peace. I said, yeah. And so I went to Shoot magazine, where he was doing You Are the Ref for, and I said, can I do the Panda of Peace and we do a double page? No, we turned it into a comic. I said, no, you don't want it. So I went to Match. And Match said, we've only got 6 months and then we're finished. It's all black and white, Paul. I said, well, I don't mind it being black and white, but what I want you to do is give me 2 pages, the Panda of Peace. And in 2 years, Shoot was off the shelf and Match was now in full colour. That's a true story. In 2 years. And then Peter Stewart phoning me. He was the editor of Shoot. He used to phone me up and say, Paul, when are you coming back? I can't. I signed a contract. I'm working now for Match. So I was the Panda of Peace. And the first game I had at Tottenham, who was playing was Gascoigne. It was his first game. And I thought, I've got to watch this guy. I've got to watch him. There's been such a ballyhoo about him. I've got to watch him. And Gazza, he lost his boot. He lost his boot as he was running through to get a goal. Yeah. And his boot come off. And in his stocking foot, he knocked one past Seaman. It was a goal. And I thought, that's the man. People are going to remember that forever. He's established himself. So I had to change out of the bear costume. So I'm in there changing and getting everything ready. And when I come out, I usually get a quick drive home. But I don't get a quick drive home. And that's because there's a car in front that keeps stopping. And I think, why does it keep stopping? People keep running over to it. So I got out and went up when it stopped again. And I said, and it was Gazza. He was signing autographs. He said, I said, you're holding me up, Gazza. He said, I'm sorry, but that's it. I'm going to sign these autographs. And he kept signing them and I kept stopping me. Suddenly we're getting out into the countryside. And I'm still following him. And then Gazza's going, looking behind him. I can see him looking behind him. And we're still following him. And he stops and he says, well, you can't follow me anymore. You can carry on your way now because this is where I live. I said, so do I. He said, what do you mean? I said, I live here as well. He said, what number? I told him. He said, we're neighbours. I said, that's right. Gazza was my neighbour. He was my neighbour. And he was the most incredible player I've ever seen. I remember I was at Wembley and I was doing a book. Because I did a book with Lineker, what a goal scorer he was. And I did a book with Gazza, and I'm doing a book with Gazza, and we're at Wembley. And I said to Gazza, if you was to take a free kick 25 yards out, he said, yes. I said, could you pick a corner? He said, yeah. Name a corner, I'll get it. So he's 25 yards out, he lined up 10 footballs. I said, right hand corner, straight in. Left hand corner, straight in. Left hand corner, right. But I thought, can't believe it. And in the game, in the semi-final against Arsenal, they got a free kick. But it was 35 yards out. So I thought, oh, it's too far out. He'll flick it in. But he didn't. One of the best free kick goals ever seen at Wembley. Gazza scored. So this is, I mean, I've been very fortunate not learning to read and write because I had the best teacher in the world, Alf Ramsey. And it was Alf. I always said to me, I looked at your drawing the other day. I saw it in the. I was working for the people. I was working for everyone. He said, I saw it. He said, and you got it right now, Paul. You got it right. You do what they do best. You do what they do best. So that's basically my life.
Unreal, Paul. What a life! It's been brilliant, and you're still as fully beans as you were, weren't you?
Well, that's why they call me the Beaver. I was the one who came back from America and saw Bill Nicholson. See, this is why everything is Tottenham. They launched my career. And I went up to Bill Nick. I said, Bill, I've just come back from America. I said, I've got some ideas. He said, what are they? I said, we've got to entertain the crowd. He said, the football does that. I said, no, we've got to do more than that before the game. I said, the players have got to come out and they got to wear stocking tags. He said, what? I said, sock tags. He said, no, that's not for us. I said, and then I said, they got to wave to the crowd before the game, not after it, before. He said, no, but look, he said, I'll tell you what. He said, my mate, Don Revie. I said, is he your mate? He said, yes. When we were players, me with Ron Burgess went into a tackle with Don Revie and broke his ankle. And they said, the surgeon said he'd never play again. Well, he did. He did get over it. But we visited him in hospital. Not once, not twice, 3 or 4 times. So I know Don very well. Now, they're known as Dirty Leeds. It could be interested. I'll tell you what, I'll fix it for you. So he fixed it, and I went up there. I couldn't believe it. I watched them train. I'd seen Tottenham train. I'd seen Chelsea train. I'd seen Arsenal train. I'd seen Newcastle train, Man City. But Leeds and Les Cocker, he said, higher, faster, move quick, backwards. I'm just watching them. They're jumping up. So when I went to see Don Revie, I said, Don, what I think we should do is wear the sock tags. He said, yeah, I'm interested in that. Come out and wave to the crowd before the game. He says, yeah, that's good. And get Gary Sprake to throw the ball against the goalpost. And then before the game, get him to throw the ball against the goalpost. And when it comes off, he catches it, dives and catches it, because it'll come off all different angles. And then the crowd can actually see him front on. He said, that's clever. Then we get Eddie Gray to take, he said, look, I've got it all, but the fitness routine you keep on about, I said, yeah, I've never seen anybody so fit. Let's get them out early. Bring out the 12th man, you've got 12 players. He said, yes. I said, get 3 to run to that corner, 3 to run to that corner, 3 to run to that corner, 3 to run to that corner. And then they all run round the ground doing their fitness routine. He said, that's great, but you've got to clear that with Les Cocker. So I went to see Les, and he was at Dunkirk, the hardest man I've ever met. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, I've never seen any team as fit as Leeds. The way they jump, I couldn't. I'm telling you, I see him jump off that horse you've got there, and I would jump off that with a parachute. He said, well, look, okay, Paul, okay. what do you want me to do? I said, get them out early, dial them up into 4, and they run around the ground and show them how fit they are. So that's what they did. So I went back in. I said, he's on for it, Don. He said, well, look, I'm convinced. He wasn't. Don wasn't convinced. I'm convinced. You've got to convince the players. So I went out there. I talked to the players. We kept them all in. And I went on the stage and I said, now, look, what I want to do, and Jack Charlton stood up. Get back to London! You don't eat your rubbish. Get out! And he said, F off. I said, look, see that ball on the floor? He said, yes. I said, you know that ball gets dropped. And that was Gary Sprake. They all looked at Gary Sprake, careless hands. I picked the ball up. I said, I can give it to Don. He can throw it against the wall. And I promise you I'll catch it. Because I could catch it. I really was the best. He went, threw it to the wall. Don, I caught it. I said, right, now will you listen? He said, yeah, 5 minutes. But at the end, they all agreed to do it. And then Don, Big Jack come up. And everyone had agreed. And he said, I'll do what you want me to do, because the rest of the team have fallen in love with what you said. But I'm telling you this, if we don't win the cup, I know what you said on stage. You said on stage, you've got a championship medal, you've got a World Cup winners medal, Jack, but you haven't got an FA Cup winners medal. You've been in 2 finals and lost them both. He said, and I remember that. He said, so I want to win that cup. I said, all right. So they did win the cup. And I went in the dressing room afterwards, and there was Jack. And he came over and he took off the sock tags. He said, that for you. I said, I didn't go across the white line, Jack. I didn't go across the white line. He said, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And I looked at them and they were signed, just like I told them to sign the backs and then hand them out to the crowd. And I thought, you've got to take one back, Jack. He said, all right, I'll take one back, but you keep the other one. And I've still got it. I've got that Jack Charlton tag. Signed by the man. Signed by the man. He was the man. I said to Alf Ramsey, who's the best centre half? He said, LeBone's good. There's quite a few who are better than Big Jack. I said, well, why do you play Big Jack? He said, because every ball that comes in, he's up there. There's not one ball that comes into our penalty area that he doesn't head away. He's absolutely the best. And most teams like to lob that ball in. And Jack gets it away every time. So that's why Jack Charlton played. He was the best at heading the ball. Suddenly he died of dementia, which is sad.
Yeah.
Remember, I went to a PFA dinner and he was talking to Gordon Banks. And I waited for him to finish. And then I went over to Jack. I said, Jack, I can't believe, and I'm starting talking about some of the things he did. And he said, I don't remember that all. And then he said, shit, no, who's over there? I said, who's that? He said, that's Gordon Banks. He's not come up and said one word to me. I said, but you were talking to him. He said, when was I talking to him? And that's when I knew he had dementia. That was sad. That was sad. But that is the life story in a nutshell of Paul Trevillion. Can't read, can't write, but can draw.
Amazing, honestly. Listen, what a legend.
There's something coming out tomorrow, or next week. And do you know what it is? I was the man. I'm going to tell you something now. I'm going to give you a scoop. I'm going to give you something that nobody's ever had.
Yeah. Go on,
I got a phone call from Don Revie before the cup final. He said, the boys are getting a bit twitchy, Paul. And you know we lost 2. I said, yeah, I mentioned that on stage, you lost 2. He said, yeah, I know. He said, but I don't want to lose tomorrow and we're playing Arsenal. I said, they did a double last year. He said, I know. He said, but look, he said, come over and bring your little putting game. So I brought my little putting game over. Now, I never missed a putt. I got a video, which $1 million challenge. I did $1 million challenge in America. It's an American one. And now what I learned to do was to split my hands and hold it like a pencil. I held the putter like a pencil, and I can draw a straight line. I can draw a straight line. And I thought, it's the ball that beats me. But if I hit it hard enough, it hits the back of the cup and drops, it goes in. And that takes the bar out. That takes the bar out. I've got it at the bar. So how far will it go? So I aim not at a 4-foot hole, a 6-foot hole. This is my secret. I'm telling you it now. It was a 6-foot hole, 6 foot away. And I'm going, boom, boom. And I can get that to stop just as it drops into the hole 6 feet away. So when I get a call from Don Levy, bring your little putting game, I bring it up. And they all have a go. They're all putting a fiver in. Some are putting a tenner in. They want 2 goes. But I'm beating them all. Until it comes to Johnny Giles. Johnny Giles is unbelievable. Bang, 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 bang. In. So Don says, it's just going to go on all night. Got to stop it. I'm going to move it back 2 feet. I thought, good. That's what I want, 6 foot. So it was 6 foot. He moved it back 2 feet. Going to go on all night. And then Johnny Giles, and he missed. So I thought, it's before the cup final. I don't want the guys to come off as losers. So I knocked the ball behind me. I went, and next minute I'm in the air. Jack Charlton, my shirt's tore. He said, you got a putt? You got a putt? I said, all right. I put it down. I thought everything's constant. Straight line, just like a draw. In. So I beat a lot. I've beaten each and every one of them. So I beat them. So the next thing I know is this is a scoop. In next week, I said to Tom Scott of Golf Illustrated, that was the magazine. I said to Tom Scott, my method works. Why don't more people do it? He said, Paul, if it was good enough for Saracen, good enough for Varden, good enough for Ben Hogan, good enough for Player, good enough for Palmer, good enough for Nicholas. Paul, they're not going to split their hands. They're not going to take it away. And I said, but the pencil grip works. Look, the pencil grip works. It works. He said, look, it's never going to happen. Not in your lifetime. Now, the man who's number 1 in the world, Scotty Scheffler, had trouble with his putting. He now does the pencil grip. The pencil grip. Just like it's like I hold a pencil. Watch me hold a pencil. Watch me hold a pencil. That's the pencil. That's what they're doing. But nobody does it 100% right. That's why they miss the odd putt. I could give them a lesson, a 5-minute lesson, and they'd never miss a putt. Never miss another. Not a short putt. No, they'd never miss it. But that's going in the magazine next week.
That's fantastic. Yeah, honestly.
Look, I'm giving you I'm giving you gold dust. I'm telling you.
You're too good to me, mate, honestly.
I'm at Old Trafford with this book. This is the greatest. Look, here he is on the front. He did the forward. And this is the captain. Look at these drawings. Look, I did them now.
Amazing.
It's unbelievable. Look, my hands are steady as a rock. Look, it's as steady as a rock. And that's because I've been putting. I never let up. I got Peter Ellis, who was a bad putter, and I got Peter Ellis to come and see me. He was the voice of golf. And I said to Peter Ellis, can you hit a chair leg from 4 feet? He said, yeah. He said, can you? I said, yeah, you watch. And I went bang, bang, bang. But they bounced off different angles. So I said, let's see you do it, Peter. He went bang, and the ball come back to him. Bang, come straight back to him. Bang. I said, you've got to do that at Stoke Poges this week. You've got to do it. He said, Paul, I can't. If I miss a putt, with my hands like that, they're going to say, "What the hell's going on? What are you doing now?" So he said, "Paul, I can't do it." And I went to see him at Stoke Poges. I said, "Let me see it, just a few." And he went, boom, boom, boom. All went in with my method, with holding it like a pencil. Yeah. I thought, God, he can do it. But he didn't do it in the game. In the match, he got beat. So that was the sad story of Peter Alice. He could have putted. And I did the best ever book with him, Easier Golf. That's the best book. See, I've worked with golfers. I've worked with boxers. I've worked with cricketers. I've worked with tennis players. I've worked with them all. I've been very, very lucky. Very, very lucky.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all came from your artistic talent that you were born with as well. It's amazing, eh? And Tottenham.
No, it was Tottenham that launched my career. And I look back and think of how many breaks I got because of Tottenham. How many breaks I got. And I always feel sorry for Paul Gascoigne because he was the best player I've seen. If I used to say to me, who was the most talented? I would say Gascoigne. Who was the best goal scorer? Even Harry Kane. Jimmy Greaves. Now, Jimmy Greaves, I went to see Walter Winterbottom. I said, Walter, what is so good about Jimmy? He never misses when he gets a chance in the box. He never misses. He just, no, bump, bump. He said, it's his balance. I said, what's that? He's got perfect balance, Paul, perfect balance. No matter where he is, he's balanced. He said, and he don't beat players with his feet. Not like Pele, not with his feet. No. He beats them with his shoulders. I said, what do you mean? He said, look, because his balance is so good, he goes right up to a player, goes left. The player moves that way, he's gone right. He's gone right because he's perfectly balanced. He beats players with his shoulders, Paul. That's his perfectly balanced. That's why in the penalty area, no matter how the ball comes to him, it's in the net. In the net. He's never off balance. That was Jimmy Greaves. Unbelievable player. So, and I watched the great Pat Jennings, the first player to run out and jump up and catch the ball with one hand. He was the first player. And he was also the first player to stop goals with his feet. Didn't do it then, but he was an expert with his feet, an expert. Pat Jennings, best goalkeeper ever to play for Tottenham. So you can name all different players in different positions. See, Dave Mackay, I've never seen a better halfback than him. He was unbelievable. Dave Mackay scored goals, stopped the opposition. Unbelievable player. Loved him to death. John White, look, I did a program when John White was killed by lightning. And I did the program for John White. And it's on the front cover. Best drawing I ever did of John White. It was him. And all the players signed it. I've got the program, all signed it. And they gave a testimonial for him. And this was a testimonial program. And I was so happy. I was so pleased. Now, the new ground, they got that up with all the programs, but that's up. And John White's son come to me and he said, Paul, I promise you, Paul, I'd like to see you at Tottenham and stand under that photograph of John because it's my dad. It's him, my dad. That's where we stood. So this is it. I can go on all night.
Honestly, man, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I can't thank you enough. Thanks so much.
No. You're the best. You are the best. You're the man.
I try my best.
Listen, now you do better than your best. You do better than your best. You deliver big time.
That's it.